Your time has been used up completely.
Actually, thank you, Jerry. You gave me a moment to calm down because I'm so nervous. Just be in awe of being up here. Thank you for calling me. I'm so excited. I spiked when you said something, and I almost raised my hand back there and said, oh, I gotta ask you this. So I have so many questions. I wrote them on my hand, and then I washed my hands, so I'm going to have to really focus on what I want to ask.
Come into the vortex. Come into the vortex.
Okay, I'm going to go for the one that spiked me back there when you said if you are and thank you so much for doing what you do, and I love being here, and I'm so happy to be here. Oh gosh, can I just stay here? Oh. Okay.
No.
My question is when you said when you're lined up with source energy, you croak, you die, you're in the vortex. And if you're in the vortex, then there would be nothing beyond that. Please tell me what happened with Jesus, because there is such controversy. He was in the vortex and he was done and he never came back. And I just have so many questions. I feel so connected to Jesus in a way that I can't explain, that my heart sings, and I don't know what that's about.
Well, we have some questions for you about that. Do you believe that, first of all, does it resonate with you that you are an eternal being?
Yes.
And do you think that's true of Jesus?
Absolutely.
And does it make sense to you that even though you're here in this physical body, or even though he was here in a physical body, does it make sense to you that the larger part of you is non-physical?
Yes.
Does it make sense to you that while you are in your physical body, you have access to all of that?
Yes.
Does it make sense to you that while you're in your physical body, you, by virtue of what you're thinking, could be in or out of the vortex? It could go either way, and that you have control over it. Does it make sense to you from the scanty part of the story of his life that you have actually been able to hear? Does it make sense to you that he was not so different from you in the sense that there were things that he focused upon that took him into the vortex and allowed the clarity? In other words, when you sat before him dripping your illness and he held you as his object of attention, he did not allow himself to see your illness. Instead, he knew the wholeness of you because he was in the vortex where he could see all that you had become. And he trained himself not to be distracted. Do you think that he was always that way? Do you hear the story of how he left his village and went somewhere they knew not where and was gone for some period of time? Do you know where he was?
No, where was he?
He was off learning how to get into the vortex. He was off learning how to meditate. He was learning to control his mind. He was distracted from the trauma of his village off to himself, turning into the vibration of the wholeness of who he is, so that from inside the vortex he could see the wholeness. That's why when he returned, while he did not always stay in the vortex, once he integrated back into his society, he had trained himself so that he could predominantly be in the vortex. Do you think he was in the vortex the day they nailed him up?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, what's your guess?
No.
Is that not a powerful message that he would bring? In other words, if you could hear him, what he was saying is, I'm not different from you. The kingdom of heaven that you are all looking for over here, over here, over here, over here, over here, over here, isn't over there, isn't over there, it's over here. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It is a vibrational place. You tune into it. Everyone is an extension of it, you see. When you wait for him to come back, do you understand that that's what is flowing to all of you? In other words, it's physical humans who stand outside the vortex and write this stuff always get it wrong. Helpful?
Very helpful. Did he resurrect, like come up back from the dead like the Bible says, or did he pull a fast one and go down the aisle or down the alleyway and somebody took his place? I'm just really curious.
He reemerged into non-physical, as each and every one of you will. He became source energy, as each and every one of you are. Reemerges back into physical experience, as each and every one of you are doing. In other words, he was not an anomaly. He was not an anomaly, and yet all the things that you want to believe about him are accurate. In other words, but they are accurate of you as well.
Thank you.
You see, sometimes you find those symbols that you use as mile markers or goalposts for yourself. And certainly there's a lot of that happening there. But then humans distort the stories beyond the laws of the universe. And then when they cannot achieve the same distortion, then it makes the story all the much more unusual, until you hold as your example something that wasn't, something that isn't, and something that couldn't be, and then you use that to club yourself about the head with. You say, we're not walking on water yet, we haven't got it. And we say, this is a vibrational place. In other words, Esther met someone years ago who was going to meditate. And when Esther visited with her, she said, yes, every day we levitate. And Esther said, really? You all levitate? And she said, yes. But when Esther looked in the little window of the room where they were all levitating, they weren't levitating. They were all sitting on the floor. But if Esther had been in the room with them, she would have had the experience of levitation with them. In other words, you have to be in the vortex. You have to be up to speed with who you really are, you see. And so what Jesus' primary message was is that he was the extension of source energy. It was translated in many different ways. It's translated that he was the Son of God, eventually the only Son of God. In other words, it got more and more distorted as time goes by. But there was nothing that he was saying then or would say to you now that is different than what you are hearing here. And you can tell by the resonance that you feel within you when you find a piece of something that the source within you agrees with. We are not wanting to go back into history and rewrite any books. It's not necessary. What we want you to do is to find the feeling place of where you are, acknowledge that there is a larger part of you that you have expanded to, and then feel yourself into resonance with who you are. We want to empower you to your own guidance system. And when you do, while you will continue to love and appreciate this one that you know as Jesus, you won't hold him on a pedestal that you have not yet achieved. You will see him as a partner in creation. You will feel the equality of that which you all are. You will feel the fullness. You will never really know who he is until you achieve that same vibration, you see. Don't make yourself separate and apart from him. Don't hold him in a category in your mind or on a pedestal that is unreachable for you. That was never his message. And that's why when you tell the story in that way, it always feels the way it does in your gut. It's bogus. It's off, you see. When you hear the stories of love, when you hear the parables, when you listen to the way he cared about others, sometimes you feel all full of yourself. Because in the reading or the hearing of that, you come into alignment with who you are. But the majority of the story, the part that's most emphasized about this blessed being who came to teach, to uplift you all to the same alignment, the majority of the story that is told is about the day that he was not in the vortex. And then all of the stories that you then have to tell in order to make that fit, that make that fit, and then make that fit, and then make that fit. And before you know it, everybody says, I believe, but nobody knows what they're believing because nobody feels it.